Or kia ora korua, just I'd like to introduce Nancy Rishworth and Jonathan Rishworth. Just been old friends of our family for years and years. And I do mean old.
Old.
Very old. It's really a real privilege to be able to talk with you both and remember the times when we met, and just really we've had a shared journey together. I first met both Jonathan and Nancy down in Oxford at a Bahá'í summer school. Back then, these guys and people like myself as youth, we just moved. We moved everywhere. So, yeah. So I remember coming down and seeing you, and I'd hitchhiked all the way from Whangārei to Gisborne Summer School, and I was trying to fast because I'd never fasted before, and I was really scared of it. So I remember that, and then Oxford had a summer school, so I then hitchhiked from Gisborne down to Oxford, which is just out of Christchurch, and that's when I first met you both. It was really lovely, and I think you both were hugely influential in my life, because the next time I met you, I was considering going to Israel, which of course that's where Nancy you're from, and Jonathan you were working, and I felt that I was asking people, should I do it or should I not do it, and everybody was saying, you need to pray about it, and you guys just said to me, just do it. And it was fantastic, and it took all the weight off my shoulders. So that's, I met you then, and then I think the next time was, I believe it was in the Cook Islands, and you were serving in the Cook Islands in Manaia.
Yeah, that's right.
Manaia, or Mangai, and I was in Rarotonga, and you were serving on the National Assembly. So that was and that was a fantastic time. We had lots of energy. We had a guy called Dwayne Farran. He came over. He did a lot of talking at schools and to the communities, and then I was involved with a group called Yao, a Bahá'í youth dance group, and I have a dancing background, so we had like 2,000 people, and we were just doing local dance, Tahitian dance, Māori haka, and the Bahá'í Yao group with Kirsten Thempe and Monty Ings, and so it was pretty amazing.
It was.
And that was that time, and then I remember we sort of went different ways, and I met up with you in Taranaki, in New Plymouth, and Jonathan and I kind of widowed our wives. We ended up surfing and doing a lot of surfing, too much surfing. And I think Nancy found Taranaki was somewhat cold and somewhat wet, and you guys left us behind in Taranaki, and you went over to was it Napier first?
Napier,
yeah. So that was then, and then after that, anyway, we ended up going to, I think you stayed there. We went to Auckland, or you went to Auckland, and then Bonnie and I went to China. So we served in China. We were oral English teachers. We did that for a year, and these guys were incredibly supportive. Like, I remember the biggest thing that they would do. They sent me this bar of chocolate, Cadbury's chocolate. It was so good. In China, we don't have that stuff. So that was excellent. And then we came back, and then we served again. We went to Auckland. We served in Whakatane, and that was for a couple of years on the local assembly. And then you guys went to Papamoa, and then after that you went to Auckland, and then you came to Whangārei. And then we went to Auckland, and then we went to Whangārei and served on the local assembly and in the community. We just like following them around. So what about some of your memories? We'll just start in the beginning. What about Haifa, and obviously you grew up there, and obviously Jonathan, you came there and met Nancy there. So
Thank you, Tom. Yes, I went to Haifa when I was 3, and my parents served there for 19 years. And I lived there for 15 years. So all of my formative years were spent in that very special place, that very special part of the world, which is very tumultuous and conflict-driven. But the Bahá'í World Centre is this haven of serenity and peace, which the people there of all backgrounds recognize. And when Jonathan and I got married, we had people from all backgrounds at our wedding. So we had Israeli Jews, we had Israeli Arabs were Christian background. We had folk from Palestinian Muslim background, as well as a whole array of Baha'is from all over the world.
Yeah.
And so it's that bringing together of these multi-faceted aspects of humanity in that one place that made it a very special place to grow up in a very dynamic part of the world. And the people there have tremendous respect for the Baha'i community, and are very curious about it. And Baha'is don't share their faith there that much because we acknowledge the Jewish state, and that's not why we're there. So it's great to have been able to move in that international community, and that's how I got to meet Jonathan. Yeah. It's pretty special. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, in terms of my background, wow, it was quite different to what Nancy just described. Having said that, though, I had fantastic parents.
Yeah.
Which has been a lifesaver, I think, for me. I mean, life's hard enough when you have fantastic parents. I know what it'd be like to have not great parents. So, and so my mother and father were great, and I had two older brothers who were great, and treated me really well as a youngster. And so when I grew up, I was in a typical, I guess, New Zealand style family with, we'd go to church, most Sundays, pretty much all the time, and grew up. But God was over, in my view. God was. Yeah. I believed in God, but I didn't think he necessarily had much to do with me, or maybe more to the point, me with him. And so having then had this experience when I was about 16, which left no doubt in my mind that God was here, that there was that. Now that's quite a story in its own right, but it really then, because of this spiritual experience, I became really restless and sort of searching, and so I read all sorts of books as a older teenager, and came across the Bahá'í Faith when I was 20, and kind of miraculously recognized Baha'u'lláh, though I think that recognition never ends. It's like a continual experiencing and hopefully learning. And during that time, ended up down in Greymouth with a really good friend who had actually taught me the faith, Brendan O'Sullivan, who's since died. And so while I was in Greymouth, that's when before, on the way to Greymouth, we were in Tokomaru Bay, and I was with a bunch of Baha'is, and they were saying they'd just all been on pilgrimage, talking about the Holy Land. And I said, I want to go on pilgrimage, And they all said, okay, write the letter tonight. So I wrote that letter that night, and the next day we all marched down to the local shop / post office / whatever, the local general store in Tokomaru Bay. Posted that letter to Haifa, and a few months went by and we arrived in Greymouth, and that's when I received notice from the House of Justice inviting me on pilgrimage. And that's then also from that I wrote to the House of Justice because of another experience where there was opportunity to serve at the World Centre. Yeah. And I got this letter from the House of Justice, and in the House of Justice's letter, they were saying, well, don't expect that you're going to meet anyone. If you're thinking of getting married, just be aware that it's not likely it's going to happen. Because at the time when I arrived, there was about 12 or so Baha'i youth, and everyone else was, older.
Older, yeah.
And so there wasn't like this huge amount of youth. But as it turned out, one of those youth who were there was this lady here, Nancy. Yeah. And that's, the first night I actually met you at a deepening by Mrs. Fazy, hand of the cause, Mr. Fazy, his wife, she was giving a deepening on mysticism, science, and revelation. And,
yeah.
And so there's a bunch of the youth was in a relatively small room, and apparently no one could understand a word I was saying because of my accent and how fast I spoke.
Yeah, but my first impression of Jonathan was very excited, passionate individual. I have no idea what he just said, but it's very passionate and enthusiastic and radiant and enthused. So that was intriguing. Yeah.
Do we as New Zealanders, come across a little bit different in our demeanour compared to Americans and other nationalities? Are we somewhat different?
I think generally, although I've just said Jonathan was passionate and excitable and full of life, I think New Zealanders generally come across as quite reserved and quite easy to get along with. Yeah, they're actually not in your face. They're courteous, polite, and inclined to want to create good vibes. As opposed to some of my darling compatriots who sort of want things done exactly a certain way and quite demanding in public situations of being at a restaurant and demanding the ice and the water and all that
we would never do that.
that kind of stuff. Where New Zealanders go with the flow generally. And I think that makes them quite endeared around the world as travelers. As visitors and tourists, they're well thought of, I think. Kiwis. Often mistaken for Australians, which gets up people's noses a bit, but
that's fine.
New Zealanders.
I think we're somewhat self-deprecating, and I think we're sort of rather a more humble people. That's tended to be my feeling about Kiwis. Aussies are far more brash. I love Australians. I love their energy. I love the way they are. But just one of the things you said, and it's kind of interesting because we lived in China. So when we went to China, my wife and two of our daughters were there, the youngest two, and we were in a situation where to talk about the Baha'i Faith, to teach the Baha'i Faith openly, would have been very disunifying. And I think it's the same when I experienced when I was in Israel. The reason why the Baha'i Faith isn't openly taught or shared is because there's that chance that it would be seen by the government as being disunifying and causing that sort of friction between what they are trying to achieve as a government and what we Baha'is are trying to achieve as an international body. So that's my feeling. We're there as an international body we're their guests.
Mm-hmm.
So and I felt like that in China too. I would teach virtues. It was great. Like in schools, we'd have 62 kids, 8 classes, different kids, and I just talk about virtues with them, and we'd have fun and we'd play games, and they were really onto it. And I felt that for me was a comfortable way to share things. So what about the cooks? Because you went to Manaia. Now Manaia is like a little speck in the middle of a huge ocean. Why did you choose to go there?
Yeah.
And how did you manage to stay there so long?
Can I just go back for a second? So I'm just reflecting on this conversation and thinking about. I had no idea, and I think we're all in the same boat. I had no idea what the exciting adventure, and at times extraordinarily testing adventure, to step into into seeking to the best of our ability to follow the teachings of Baha'u'lláh. And when I think about from this acceptance of Baha'u'lláh and the journey that led to going to Israel, and we're going to be talking about the cooks, etc.
Yeah.
And just the people. I mean, meeting people like, the wife of the Guardian, Amatu'l-Bahá Rúhíyyih Khánum, and having lunch with her.
Yeah.
And Nancy, for Nancy, she was like, I don't know, like a revered aunt. I'm not quite sure how to put it really. How would you describe your?
She's indescribable. Yeah, it is a category all on her own.
Yeah.
I think there is an aspect of Rúhíyyih Khánum that was very commanding. She commanded the respect of a room the minute she walked into it. I also saw an extremely tender side of Rúhíyyih Khánum, extremely loving, edifying, the way that she encouraged the youth and supported them in their education as far as deepening their knowledge of the faith. It was very, very giving, very, very giving. So I have very tender memories of her evenings at her home, which was the master's house, the home of Abdul-Bahá, where she would invite guest speakers to share something of the Bahá'í Faith with the youth. She would put on the dinners for them. And one very special occasion, she invited just 4 Bahá'í youth, all females, who were children of people who were serving at the Bahá'í World Centre, as well as visitors. And she put on the lunch herself. She got the vegetables from the vegetable garden that she had planted. It was a very simple, we had a lot of elaborate dinners at her place, but this was a very, very simple. It was pumpkin and, just simple vegetables. And she often would dress very regally. This was just Rúhíyyih Khánum in a homespun, Yeah. It was so incredibly moving and special to have this very intimate little conversation. And she, she often sat with her, her hand on the table, and she would just look in her eyes, interested, curious about these 4 15-year-old girls. That was hugely, hugely special. I have many, many memories, very special memories of her and her kindness.
I remember. You've got to remember. I'm from New Zealand, right? I'm a young carpenter, tradie, and so how I used to work when it got hot. Singlet, really short shorts, right? And it was too hot, rip off the singlet. It's hot, right? And so that's how. And so I arrived in Israel with that mindset. And so Rúhíyyih Khánum needed some furniture moved at the house of the master. And so I rock up there and with Bruce Hancock, and I'm in my singlet and shorts, and starting to move furniture around. And she sort of stops and says, "Young man," looking at me, you are not only naked from the waist down, you're naked from the waist up." And then she said, "And what's more, you're the most sensibly dressed of all of us." So she, wow. And then I have a photograph of that. We went outside. I'm not sure who took it. It might have been Mrs. Nachavani. Took a photograph of Bruce, Rúhíyyih Khánum, and myself. We're all smiling, and there I am with my singlet. And so,
stubbies.
Yeah, the stubbies, and that's. I didn't. I learned from it. You learn.
Yeah. It's a kind lesson.
It was a kind lesson.
It was, just those moments with wonderful spiritually elevated people. You know,
Yeah.
like I remember I was there on pilgrimage first, and then it was time to for the pilgrims to leave, and I knew I was staying because I was staying there to work, right? Because the House of Justice had invited me to serve there for 2 years, and I felt awful that first day or two because all the pilgrims had gone, all the people that I'd formed that special relationship, and I was staying, and at that time I felt I just want to go, I want to go too, you know, and then that's how I was feeling. And I went out to Bahá'í, and I was walking, you know, around to the shrine of Baha'u'llah, and Mr. Nachavani was walking along, and he saw me, and he just went, "My brother," and then just embraced me, you know. And then he took my hand, and he said, "Come and have lunch with us." And so we just walked around into the pilgrim house in Bahá'í, and the caretakers of the shrine of Baha'u'llah, and I had this lovely Persian lunch, and it was like, I am so welcome, I am so loved and welcome.
Yeah.
Wow. And those sorts of moments.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. Is that no distinction? You weren't just someone who's just got off the boat and coming to do some menial tasks. You were respected and honoured as whānau.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what Jonathan's mother recalls when she came to visit us, and Jonathan had been endeavouring to teach her the faith, and she was literally loved into the Bahá'í Faith at the World Centre because of the hospitality and the warmth and the generosity that was shown to her, that embrace, that absolute loving, no holds barred embrace. And I think that's those are treasured times and treasured memories of how to live these principles. And it's very easy in the world around us to get caught up in other ways of being, and to forget that these principles are meant to be lived in order to transform.
I think the thing about being there is not just the people at the house members and everybody serves there. It's actually, you are at the centre of the Baha'i world. You have the shrine of the Baha, the shrine at the Baha'is interred. You've got the shrine of Baha'u'llah, and you've got this incredible privilege to be able to go to those absolutely holy and sacred and tapu places to say prayers. Yeah. Prayers for yourself, but prayers for your family. And it's just this, like, I think you become, I remember when I left, I just radiated light. Like, I felt like that time there, this spiritual light had just come within my whole being and was radiating out. And it was just the most amazing thing. However, it's like Nancy says, we're now living in this world. And I think that's where, as Baha'is, we have to every morning say our prayers, read the writings, do acts of kindness, reflection. You know, these are acts of service. I think that's what helps us or at least to try and bring that light back by just being good human beings, be accepting of other people, being loving and kind, and just praying to Baha'u'llah, to God, to change you. You know, to make you that soul that you're supposed to become. So Nancy, you're a naturopath. That's your profession. You've helped our family with some of the things that you've provided for us for our issues with health. Just tell me, how did you get there, and what are you doing now with it? And also, maybe in terms of being a Baha'i, what opportunities does that give to you, and what are some of the challenges you also find working in the world, the world in which we live?
I think going back to the encouragement of young people and of education and of being of service to humanity with one's gifts and one's talents, which was something that was encouraged in my family and among the Baha'is who were around me. That was always in the back of my mind in choosing a path. But what consolidated it for me, it was sort of like a thunderbolt in a way, was when my own father was very unwell, very, very sick, terminally ill. And I just wanted to help. I wanted to do something to help. And I had this interaction with naturopathy, which is an umbrella term that encompasses a lot of different modalities that include human nutrition, botanical medicine from, phytotherapy from various parts of the world, European botanical, Chinese, Ayurvedic or Indian, and other modalities that are incorporated under that. And that was of incredible interest to me. And I began to study human physiology and anatomy. But it was all sparked by this situation where my father was very, very, very sick and came to New Zealand to visit us because he was told, we're going to do either another round of, quite intense drug therapy or go and see your family. It was so he chose to come to see us. And we had embarked on this particular regime, which was fairly intense and fairly extreme. He wasn't inclined to follow what I wanted to, but he was so humble and receptive because he loved me and he knew I was trying to help him. So he accepted this raw vegan situation that we were thrusting upon him, and we were so passionate and so kind of desperate really to help him.
Raw wheatgrass juice.
Can you imagine?
Oh, every night, every day. I remember him sitting up in bed, and he had this green juice in his hand. He said, "I'm going to die the healthiest man in the world."
In Dunedin. Cheers! And he just held it down. Any of you know what wheatgrass juice tastes like? It's pretty intense. So just his acceptance of this path that I was on, and it was so, when I think about it, it was so loving and tolerant on his part, and it did have an impact because they didn't expect him to come back alive at all. And so when he walked in unaided to the hospital on his return after 3 months, they were quite shocked. So that was the beginning of this journey for me, and it's been challenging and joyful at the same time. I guess in terms of how do we live those principles, it's in the spirit of service to people that we do what we do. And with the profession that I'm in, there's a lot of pushback because it's considered alternative, it's not part of mainstream. And so I'm always encouraging my patients and my clients to work with the mainstream. We want to, it's a marriage. We want to, you have your health team, we're working together. We're not in competition with each other. And so to create those relationships so that people are aware, this isn't someone who is trying to put down one system, but rather to work in a complementary way. And I think that's because of the teachings of the Baha'i Faith that, promote this seeking solutions in consultation with others, and it's been it's been a wonderful journey.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So Jonathan, I want to ask you about being a tradie because I know what that's like, and I am a tradie. So yeah, it's a different route to go than what you've done. As somebody who's working with our tangata whenua, people like Hapu Tūrehau, and how has that been for you in terms of the sort of, you're a Baha'i, they may come from a different background. There's also tikanga. There's Māori have come from different walks of life or different ways of thinking. How's it been for you as a Baha'i? How's that interaction been with those particular or different particular people?
Yeah. I feel it's hard to put into words because sometimes you just don't feel like you fit with the purpose of a particular business. It's not. And I found at times, because in the construction industry, it's very much about, and there's nothing wrong with it, but about how much money you're making. Is the profit sufficient? And that's fine, but I think there's a high purpose in most businesses, in my view. Providing shelter for people, whether it's shelter for whānau in their homes or for businesses, building office blocks. It's necessary, right? But when I had the opportunity to work with tangata whenua, first of all in Papamau, Bay of Plenty, and I was there for about 6 or 7 years, and that's when I was the chief executive, and there was some amazing experiences. Conversely, there were some really tough times, but you meet gems, really wonderful people, and so that was a as I say, pretty tough experience, but also heartening on the other hand, and to be able to be involved in creating an environment where the whānau involved would have a massive upliftment if they so chose, in terms of being their own people, their own rangatiratanga. So they had, they had the ability to be their masters of their destiny. So and then going from there, I was offered a position with Ngāti Here Forestry Trust up here in Whangārei, and I was there for a similar length of time, 6 or 7 years, and again challenging at times, but just some of the people you meet are just amazing. And I think one of the things that you start to if you're working within the tangata whenua and the Māori community, you realise how big their capacity to forgive is. And it's not necessarily talked about much, because the generality of New Zealanders, they call it mainstream thinking, don't necessarily have the awareness of what has gone on. And for one reason or another, New Zealanders have a very generalising, through the schooling system, have a very small understanding of what took place. We know about what happened to Napoleon, what's his name, and the Queen such and such, and King that, which bored me to tears, but that's what we did at school. But actually what happened here, we had a really, I'm talking about when I was growing up, was next to nothing. And so being in that community and seeing what they had been through and what they were growing was amazing. And I always felt that. I say, what I feel is happening is you've got this giant, you've got this Māori economic space that unknown to New Zealanders, because I've been in there 20 plus years now, so I'm talking about 20 years ago, it's like, they don't realise how important this space is going to become, and it's going to become more important, because there is a lot that they're going to bring into business and into society. And then most recently with Te Reo Hau, so I was there 7.5 years, as you know. I left end of last year, and I really treasure that time. And I feel that the culmination, that time allowed me to bring the different learning that I had experienced and be able to offer that, and to work with the elders, the Taumata Council that they are called, and then working with the board, and then working with the whānau, working with the marae, serving the marae. All those experiences I felt, I had the honour and privilege of being able to introduce other opportunities, and because of the faith, because of Baha'u'llah's teachings on the oneness of humanity, and the respect that was shown within the Baha'i teachings, particularly from the Guardian most recently, and also Abdu'l-Bahá, he maybe didn't talk about it as much, but the respect for the ways of the spiritual thinking and viewpoint of Indigenous people. And so like, in my view, Baha'u'llah's teachings and the Indigenous people's teachings are very much like this. I don't put them on the same level, because I think Baha'u'llah has brought everyone new ways of looking at things. But I think if you look at the Indigenous spirituality and the generality of mainstream spirituality, I think there is a closer alignment with tangata whenua and other Indigenous cultures with the Baha'i community. And I see that the Baha'i community, as it becomes more and more familiar with what is happening with the Indigenous races in terms of their search, they will become more and more open to engaging with the Indigenous cultures. And the Indigenous cultures will see more and more that what Baha'u'llah is offering takes their spiritual understanding to a whole new level as well. And so to be part of that, it's just been, I don't know how to describe it really, a real privilege.
Well, thank you both. Really appreciated the integrity in which you've spoken, and just the wonderful experience you've had. And it's been really a privilege to me to obviously have known you over all these years and followed you round, followed in your shadow. But yeah, much love to you both. And kanuni me ho tanako ki a korua, me to whānau, me to tipuna. Yeah, and thank you so much, and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Kia ora, Tom.
Kia ora.
You're welcome.
Kia ora, Peter.